Hi everyone, for tonight's Nightcap and review, I'm having an adult beverage on the rocks, and I'll be reviewing The Water Crystal, Deal with the Devil by Alfred Muller. This is a book that the author gifted to me, but of course I'm always going to give my honest opinion. These are the tropes. And there are no content warnings listed in this book, but these are things I found to make you aware of if you choose to read this book. I could, of course, miss something, but those are just the general things that stuck out to me. Now, what are my thoughts on this book, or at least my rating, I should say? My rating for this book is going to be a 3.5. I will say the author reached out to me asking if they could gift me a copy of their book to have me read it and give my thoughts on it. I will say I told them that I primarily read romantasy and just dark romance, things with a romance element, which this book doesn't quite have, but it is a fantasy, urban fantasy book. But we were both like, yeah, let's give it a try, see if this book works out for both of us. And I will say I may not have been the targeted reader for this book, but I was happy to read it and I'm happy to give my thoughts. But do keep in mind that I may not have been the targeted reader for this book, so if it sounds like something you're interested in, definitely give this book a try. So what are my thoughts? So before we go over my thoughts on this book, let's first go over what this book is about. This book starts off with Anthony Luther, our main character, who as a child dies and meets the devil. And after some convincing from the devil, a deal is struck between this child and the devil. The deal is that in the future, this unspecified favor will be given to the devil from Anthony, that Anthony will do whatever the devil wants at that moment. And in exchange, he gets to go back to his life on earth and be alive and be with his family, which to an 8-year-old, that's all he wants. He's scared, and after everything he just went through with the devil and the convincing, he just wants to be back in his home with his mom, his dad, and his sister. He just wants to get out of hell. So to him, that seems like a great deal. 10 years later, however, he starts to wonder if he got the short end of the deal, because the town that he lives in remembers what happened, what he was a part of, and has ostracized, bullied him, and held him responsible and taunts him. Basically, his life on earth is basically a living hell. So he starts to wonder if he got the raw end of the deal. But thankfully, he does have friends in his life like Desiree who do make his life more bearable. That is, however, until a fire breaks out in the town and that some of his friends are unalived in the fire. Not by the fire, however, but by a demon in the fire. A demon sent by the devil to remind Anthony of his deal with the devil. The demon, however, is not recalled back to hell. He is, in fact, let loose on the town. And what happens after that is that a group of reluctant angels step forward to help deal with the situation. However, by bringing angels and having demons in this situation in this town just brings the ancient struggles that these two groups have had against one another for eons. So now in the epicenter of this town, you have angels and demons who are fighting against one another, with Anthony right in the middle, and he's just trying to survive this situation as well as trying to figure out how to get out of his deal with the devil. So what are my thoughts on this book? Again, I'm giving it a 3.5. I will say I am not probably the targeted reader for this book, so take my thoughts with a grain of salt. There were some things I did enjoy about this book that kept me interested so that I did not, in fact, DNF it. I thought the concept was really interesting. My heart was breaking for Anthony, our main character, as well as I was incensed and angered by this town and how they treated him with their small town mindset and mob mentality. And there was a scene at the end that had me choked up and a little teary-eyed. That, along with the side characters, his friends, they all those factors kept me interested and kept me going for the book so that I did in fact finish it. Now, I will say there were some things I didn't quite enjoy. With this book not being in a genre wheelhouse that I typically enjoy, a lot of these things that I didn't enjoy are me issues and not book issues. So definitely give this book a try if it's something that sounds interesting to you. I will say, however, that the editing on this book, I do think there needs to be another round of it. Typically with independent authors, I will say I'm a lot more forgiving because I understand this is sometimes a one-person team. It takes a lot of work to put a book out, a lot of money, and I just applaud anyone who takes that effort on for themselves. They are not traditional publishing that have whole departments that are solely there to edit a book. So I'm usually more forgiving. But I will say with this book, the editing, it became more noticeable as the book went on when it came to sentence structures, grammars, missing commas, periods instead of commas. So if you are someone who needs the editing to be on point, this might not be the book for you, because that is not usually an issue for me. But as I said, as the book went on, I kind of wanted to get a pen out and start marking up the book to make corrections. But that is not always going to be an issue for everyone else. And this may be a story that sounds interesting to someone else, and I encourage you to give this book a try for yourselves. This book is currently available, so give it a try. It is not in the KU program, but it's an intriguing enough book and is the start to a series, because this does end on a cliffhanger. So give it a try. I hope you enjoy it. It just wasn't the book for me. And I hope everyone has a good night and happy readings.